Okay, I just got the good word from Andrea that we're recording, so we are free to start. Welcome, all of you. Thank you so much for being here. We've got a full house today here in person and a lot of people online. Thank you for being here. This is the meeting of the Wasatch Front Regional Council. Today is March 27th, 2025. My name is Dawn Ramsey. I am the mayor of South Jordan City and service chair right now of the Regional Council. And we're a few minutes late, it's 1:37 p.m. We're going to do introductions very quickly. And again, it's great to have so many people here in person, and we welcome everyone joining us online too. Stick around because we're going to pull you into this in just a minute. So stay here with us. Let's start over here with Rosie, and we'll go around the table, around the room, and then online for introductions.
Rosie Hernandez, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Jordan Chandler, WFRC staff.
Dirk Burton, West Jordan City Mayor.
Brandon Stanger, Clinton Mayor.
Tyler Vincent, Box Elder County Commission.
Lee Perry, Box Elder County Commission.
Dustin Gettle, Mayor, Midvale City.
Carlton Christensen with the Utah Transit Authority, and Bumble the Bee's bodyguard, who I found has a deep love affair for Mayor Ramsey. So
He was even taller than you, Carlton.
well, his antennas were so.
Mike Newton with Morgan County Commission.
Jeff Acherson, UTA trustee.
Monica Zoltansky, Sandy City Mayor.
Christy Overson, Mayor of Taylorsville.
I'm Lorene Kamalu, one of the Davis County Commissioners, but I'm here representing Utah Association of Counties. So all counties, I think, in this role. Yeah.
Jenny Wilson, Salt Lake County.
Laura Hanson, Governor's Office.
Andrea Pearson, WFRC.
Andrew Gruber, WFRC.
Bob Stevenson, Davis County.
Wayne Harper, State Senator.
Jeff Silvestrini, Mayor of Mill Creek.
Ariel DeFay, State Representative.
Beth Holbrook, Utah Transit Authority.
Joy Petro, Layton City Mayor.
Tammy Tran, Kaysville City Mayor.
Okay. Sherry Bingham, Hooper City Mayor.
Jim Harvey, Weber County.
Ben Nadolski, Ogden City Mayor. Bob Dandoy, Royce City.
Gage Ford, Weber County. Dan Dugan, Salt Lake City Council.
Meg Pageant, WFRC staff.
John A. Nardone, WFRC staff.
Miranda Jones Cox, WFRC.
Susan Wood, Sandy City.
Roger Borganick, Utahns for Better Transportation. Ted Moulton, WFRC Deputy.
Tim Watkins, WFRC.
Logan Cascadden, just public.
Anthony Tobler, public.
Deanna Hopkins, Enbridge Gas.
Isla Hajialiagich, Governor's Office.
James Sorensen with Sandy City.
Brian McHouston, Sandy City.
Jake Warner, Sandy City.
Matt Ryan, WFRC.
Byron Head, WFRC. Shay Musqueda, WFRC.
Wayne Benyon, WFRC staff.
Christy Dahlberg, WFRC staff.
Cameron Dill with Utah League of Cities and Towns.
Cindy Wheeloff, Ogden City.
Jory Johnner, Long Range Plan Group, WFRC.
Chandler Butler, UTA Government Relations.
Barry McLaren with Senator John Curtis.
Marshall White, WFRC.
Ben Withrich, WFRC staff.
Okay, thanks to everyone who's here in person. Let's see, I'm going to ask for two at a time based on how I can see you. So Mayor Palmer and then Mayor Phippen, please introduce yourselves to us.
Mayor Palmer, Harriman Mayor.
Ken Phippen, Far West City Mayor.
Okay. Okay, Councilmember Winder Newton, I think you're the last one. Take it away.
Amy Winder Newton, Salt Lake County Council.
Okay, thank you all so much for being here with us. We appreciate you being here.
Mayor, if I might just note, there's several other members of the public who are joining us as observers online as well, and we welcome them. And I think I see Mayor Mark Shepard as well, so we're getting him invited, getting him admitted in a moment.
Great, thank
Thanks.
you, and welcome. Welcome to all of you who are here. We appreciate your attendance today. With that, we are going to do something we've never done. We've never done it. It's different, and it's about time that we probably did it. So at the urging and recommendation of John A., who we trust and adore, we appreciate her counsel. I'm going to turn this to you, and then you can tell everyone what we're doing. They're going to expect me to say it. I'm going to let you say it.
Okay, we're going to take a group photo and we are going to include the folks online. So I'm going to ask you to actually come in this way. And I'm going to orchestrate you to take a photo up here. We're going to ask our tall folks. Carlton's going to be the marker, to go in the back. And then we'll have 2 rows on each side. So if you could come around and filter in this way, and I'll get you guys situated, and then Che is going to take a photo. So thank you for your cooperation.
So all members of the regional council and elected officials that are here, this wasn't even my idea. For the record, this was not my idea. It wasn't. That's why I'm like, I'm going to let her say it because it was her idea. I know. Thanks.
And for our folks online, please do turn on your camera. Thank you. I see you guys.
Okay, thank you. And Johnny, thank you. That was well done. Okay, we have a couple more that have joined us as well. I'm going to invite Mayor Harris and then Ivan Marrero from FHWA to also introduce yourselves, if you would, please.
Okay, I can go first. I'm Ivan Marrero. I am the Division Administrator for the Federal Highway Administration here in Utah.
Thanks, Ivan. Mayor Harris, are you able to unmute?
Yes, thank you. It's great to be with you.
Thank you. Okay, item on our agenda today, the consent agenda, we've got the minutes from our meeting that was held January 23rd, 2025, and the financial statement and check registers for December of 2024 and January of 2025, and finance report. Those have been sent out in draft form. Is there anyone who's had a chance to review those that would like to make a motion on those, or are there any amendments? Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, those are approved. Thank you. Item 2, we have our chair report. It's an overview of this session. This is the first time we've met as a council since the legislative session came to a close, and we hope our legislators in the room have had a nap at something at this point. I know you have to jump back into your life. There's probably not much time to rest, but we very much appreciate you being here. All right, we're going to turn time over to Miranda Jones-Cox, our WFRC's Government Affairs Director, to give us a little bit of information about the session and some outcomes, and then we'll also hear a little bit from our legislators. Go ahead, Miranda.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Well, appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what happened this session, and I'll be very brief. I think we've kind of talked about the session now for almost a month since it's concluded. But one thing I wanted to point folks to is this new document right here. This is our legislative summary kind of postcard, if you will, that highlights some of the notable legislation that we're highlighting from this legislative session. There's, I think, maybe 9 or 10 bills on here, while the legislature passed, I think, 592 bills. So this isn't comprehensive, of course, of all the issues that we were tracking or focused on this legislative session, but wanted to highlight some of those key bills. On the front, you'll also see some notable appropriations, a quote from the speaker on transportation investment this session, and then just some highlights as well. So I'm gonna very briefly go through a few key bills and hit some highlights of some other bills, and then we'll turn to Representative DeFay and Senator Harper to see if they have anything to share from this legislative session. So first, we'll hit quickly on appropriations. I've kind of shared this before, but this year we didn't see maybe quite as a large investment in transportation investment as we have in the past 4 years of legislative investment. The past 4 years, we saw roughly $4 or $5 billion of new one-time and some ongoing investment in transportation. And this year, the revenues weren't maybe there to support that type of continued investment, but the approach and theme that we're taking with this session is that we're continuing to build on that investment. So some notable appropriations. There was $20 million ongoing of funding going towards corridor preservation. $70 million transportation bond for an affordable housing grant program. This is in Salt Lake County. $300 million, and the reason why I put this project on here specifically is because it's such a large amount for a single project. $300 million for Third West in downtown Salt Lake City for part of the downtown redevelopment. And then approximately over $100 million in specific local transportation projects, both Salt Lake County and then outside of Salt Lake County as well. So those were the main transportation appropriations that we saw this session. So now I want to touch on there's kind of two big transportation bills this session that has a number of provisions in it impacting various transportation programs. So I'll hit that one first, SB 195, and then HB 502. SB 195, Senator Harper's bill. Maybe we should have him describe it, but thank you, Senator. Thank you. So this bill is called the Transportation Omnibus. That's what we like to refer to it as. It has really a number of provisions related to transportation programs. And so the ones listed here are the ones I think most relevant to our work. I will note a few, we won't go through all of them. The first, it requires additional connectivity planning in municipal general plans. MPOs are going to help in that process. It clarifies station area planning reporting, increases the TIF sales tax earmark, pushes back the start date of the Transit Innovation Grant Program, allows TIF funds to be used for corridor preservation, funds specific local projects, some of the ones I had mentioned before, and clarifies who has the responsibility to maintain street lighting between locals and UDOT. One, you may have noticed I skipped a bullet. This was probably the more controversial piece of the bill that was included, in that it would prohibit Salt Lake City from proceeding on certain highway reduction strategies and certain local projects in Salt Lake City unless approved by UDOT in a mobility plan. And, you know, I wish we had lots of time to have robust discussion about all of these bills and all the different provisions, but I will say on that one specifically, I think UDOT and Salt Lake City are, you know, joining team and going to work collaboratively together on that mobility plan to ensure that local projects in Salt Lake City continue to move forward.
And I should say, just on that one, Carlos Braceras isn't here yet. He's going to be joining us online in a little bit. But Senator Harper, I think it'd be fair to say UDOT didn't ask for that responsibility, but is willing to participate in partnership with Salt Lake and with other stakeholders and work on that mobility for downtown, which is important to everybody in the region.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Senator, did you have something to add? Okay. Okay, all right. Our second large transportation bill, this is HB 502, Transportation Infrastructure Funding by Representative Tusher and Senator Cullimore. This bill funds a number of those projects that I had noted before, of that, you know, 100 million in local projects. Some of the funding sources that those projects are funded out of include the County of the First Class Infrastructure Bank, County of the First Class Highway Projects Fund, the Transportation Investment Fund, and then in this bill is where it creates that affordable housing grant program funded through the UDOT transportation bond. It also funds a public transit hub, including ingress and egress in Big Cottonwood Canyon. And then other notable changes, that it makes changes to the fifth local option sales tax. We have a number of materials on what that change looks like and exactly what that means, particularly for the funding distribution in Salt Lake County and then in Davis, Weber, and Utah counties. So if you have questions about that, you know, please feel free to ask, and we're happy to provide some further information. So I'll run through a few other bills. Most of them are included on this sheet right here. Just want to touch on them briefly. SB 174, Transit Governance Amendments. This makes clarifying changes between the role of the administrating roles between the Utah Executive Director, Board of Trustees, and Local Advisory Council. It also clarifies some of the role that UDOT plays in transit capital development projects. HB 229, Corridor Preservation Amendments, clarifies that corridor preservation funds at the state can be used for transit projects. That wasn't quite clear in statute before. HB 454, this one probably isn't new to many of you, Local Government Fees Amendments. This is Representative Karen Peterson bill. This one did not pass, but I wanted to note here because many of you were obviously focused on this one during the session. It would put parameters around municipalities' ability to impose a transportation utility fee. So this bill did not pass. Municipalities can still impose a transportation utility fee, as some have already done so to date.
And to that point, I'll say what Cameron Deal is thinking, which is if you're a municipality and you're considering doing a transportation utility fee, even though the law doesn't, there's nothing in law now that governs the process, it is a recommended process to utilize that as laid out in HB 454. It's a good, transparent process that ties the transportation utility fee to the impact that the user class is having on the roadway. So even though it's not required, it's a good process, and we recommend you utilizing it if you're going to do a transportation utility fee.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Okay. Thumbs up from Cam. A few more bills, HB 379, population data amendments by Representative Gracious. The intention behind this bill is to have the data that we use at the state for funding distributions, allocations, that it's the most accurate and localized data that we have. So this would require use of Utah Population Committee data as opposed to Census Bureau data. HB 290, bicycle lane safety amendments. Yeah, Mayor Burton's a big fan. Defines bicycle lane and adds a moving violation for driving or obstructing a bike lane, hopefully leading to greater safety outcomes and for active transportation users. SB 96, advanced air mobility amendments. This would direct UDOT to provide a community outreach campaign regarding to advanced air mobility and create a local toolkit for political subdivisions for, what are the next steps in advancing advanced air mobility. And so I can't remember the timeline on this one, but I think UDOT has mentioned that this should be coming out in the relative near term. Last few bills I want to note here, these are less so transportation related, more in housing economic development space. HB 37, Utah Housing Amendments by Representative Dunnigan, requires the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget to create a state housing plan, which is already in process. We have Laura Hanson here who's leading up that charge along with some others. And the bill mentioned that it may include the development of regional housing plans. So we've already been working with GOPB and other partners in this process and will continue to do so over the next several months. And then lastly, HB 452.
Miranda, just
yes.
excuse me on that one, that phase one of the state housing plan has already been developed and many of us have been involved in that development. And Laura, is it fair that you're still accepting input from the communities on phase one? I think we've shared that and we can again in the follow-up email for this council meeting. And then we'd look, and I'm sure Laura, you'll tell me if I'm wrong here, but you'd look for engagement from anybody who's interested in the phase two of the regional housing plan, which is coming next, which is really getting into the details of the policies of how do we tackle our housing challenges in Utah? How do we continue to tackle our housing challenges in a collaborative way? That's one of the principles articulated in phase one of the plan.
Yes.
Thank you. And then lastly, HB 542, economic development amendments. There were a number of economic development bills this year, but one that I thought was notable was this one because it repealed the Unified Economic Opportunity Commission, which many of us had engaged in over the past few years and in the interim process. And then it further refines the role of the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity in the role that they will play in economic development strategy throughout the state. So more to come, I think, on what that economic development statewide strategy is going to look like moving forward. But those are a few bills that I want. Sorry, we're going quickly through them. There's so much, and unfortunately, we don't have the time to get through them all. But we do have a number of resources. I think folks have maybe put them in the chat. This is a brief summary of a even larger, 10, 12 page summary we have that outlines some of the provisions of these bills. We have our bill tracker, we have our appropriations tracker on our government affairs webpage. So for those interested, definitely would recommend you turning to those resources. But Senator Harper, Representative DeFay, for those that don't know, Senator Harper serves as the transportation chair of the Senate Transportation Committee. Representative DeFay serves as the vice chair of the House Transportation Committee. And would just, if you guys want to add anything, please feel free to. And, of course, we also appreciate your guys' service, not only to WFRC, but to the state. So.
I really don't have a lot to add. If you look at these notable legislations, 50% of them are sponsored by Senator Harper. So he has a lot to say. I'm pretty new to transportation and I really loved it. I didn't have any specific legislation in this realm, but happy to support and happy to be a part of it and learn. And Senator Harper had a couple big lifts. And so I would say one thing that I'm most proud of is the $20 million for the Corridor Preservation Fund. I think that's going to be very impactful, very meaningful going forward as we look for infrastructure development in Utah. So I think that to me is maybe one of the most impactful pieces of legislation that we passed this session.
Thank you, Cameron. Cameron's just texting me over here. In a meeting I had yesterday on a bill signing with the governor, he was again expressing his concern with the number of bills that were passed this year. We were down from last year just a wee little bit. And I said, well, Governor, you need to understand the fact. I helped out. I listened to you last year. I ran 4 bills less this year than I did the previous year. And he said, that's not good enough. So he's looking at it. And the nice thing is that we do not have a cap. We're here to represent our constituents and we try to make Utah the best we can. And quite a number of our bills, as this committee knows, are cleanups and refinements of what we did before. Now, you've got to be careful when you run a big omnibus bill that you think was agreed to, and then somebody says, hey, we need to go through and like, Senate Bill 195, we'll give a little background color on this. We had some people that came up to me from various parts in Utah or in Salt Lake County. One person in Utah County said, we have canals, we have other things that the roads are on both sides. How do we go through and fix that? So I went through and put some language in. It wasn't right. Sat down with the League of Cities and Towns and we worked through it, came up with something which I think is going to be really good on a study. And then the bill was moving through and then somebody came to me and says, we're going to bless your bill with something because we have some of the residents and some of the business community and some other stakeholders really concerned with the shifting of traffic from local roads in Salt Lake City as they narrow them down and try to do whatever they're planning to do for safety or whatever. And that traffic is now going to the state roads and those roads are starting to fail. So the whole nexus and genesis of this is we had some concerns. We successfully got everybody around the table, did a substitute bill in the Senate, went through, got to the House, and some of the parties were still not satisfied. And so the bill got substituted there, which gave me the opportunity to spend more quality time with Salt Lake City and other stakeholders in order to come up to a solution on that. So I think we have something, and yeah, we've got not an official moratorium. We've got a pause, which is going to allow all the stakeholders to get around the table. And my objective now for agreeing to run this is I think we're going to have other cities that are going to come up with some similar traffic concerns and requests of Salt Lake City. This should allow us over the next period of time to get all stakeholders together and maybe come up with a good model saying, if you're going to do something like this, here are good principles to follow and implementation steps. So I'm hoping that will come out. My little HTRZ bill, the Senate Bill 26, which came out of interim unanimously, was about 28, 30 pages. Some people realize that there's some opportunities in Salt Lake County to go through and improve the Salt Palace, the Museum of Culture and Arts, and then the Abravanel Hall. And as we came through, I said, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So we took a little 30-page bill, and now it's over 300 pages. But we've got, and that 3 bills of mine were, I won't say hijacked.
Harper specials.
They were improved through the process as we went through. But I think that's the beauty of this legislative process is we get all the stakeholders around the table discussing, and we can come up with some good things. And I really appreciate Mayor Wilson and Mayor Mendenhall working on the CCRZ and HTRZ and the other stakeholders. I think we've got something that works, at least right now on paper going forward, in order to have the users pay for what's going on in the downtown Salt Lake area and not a countywide or statewide burden. But I appreciate Representative DeFay coming on board. She's a great asset. She asked some great questions, so listen to her. She's an upcoming star. But anyway, that's kind of it, and I just want to thank everybody. It was a interesting session. It had a little bit different personality, and I think in the future we'll be able to work together a little bit better.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. And I just want to share appreciation, not only to many of you for being engaged in the legislative process, helping us identify what issues you all care most about, but also the engagement that we've had and the partnership that we have with our partners at the Utah Association of Counties, Utah League of Cities and Towns, UDOT, UTA, Mountain Land Association of Governments, all these partners, and really is a team effort up there on the Hill to ensure that the good policy making happens and that we all end up in a better place post-session. So,
and one other comment.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, well, what does your bill do? Can you give me a summary? And I said, go look at the Wasatch Front, go look at what Miranda did. She is so quick and so technical in nature, and she can presented a good thing. A lot of my colleagues are using her summaries to understand the bill. So well done, Miranda.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. Thanks.
May I have a comment on Senator Harper? One of the reasons Senator Harper does so well is because he had his training as a council member back in West Jordan. So thank you, Senator Harper.
Well, I believe now we're going to spend a little time just touching on some federal policy development. So Mayor Andrew, I'll kind of turn it back to you.
Thank you. We all know there's a lot happening at the federal level right now, and transportation reauthorization coming up. We've put together some principles. There was a group of us had the chance to attend the National Association of Regional Councils and meet with our congressional delegation about these principles and the things that we're working on. So really, I'll just turn it to Andrew and Miranda, go back through those if you will. And I would like to welcome a few more people I have seen join us. We have Mayor Mele here, Mayor Lang online, Commissioner Bolos, Councilmember Stringham, Mayor Burke. Okay, that's everybody that I can see. We welcome each of you too. Thanks for being here. And now take it away.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Miranda. Thank you very much. It's suffice to say there's a lot happening in Washington. We are not going to try to describe or predict everything. We're going to focus in on transportation issues because that's our core responsibility. I'm going to just give a little bit of a status report and background and then turn to Miranda to talk about our Utah shared transportation principles as we look ahead for the reauthorization of the primary law that establishes federal transportation policy and funding. So just by way of background in transportation, you all know that just in the last days, weeks, a continuing resolution, a CR, was adopted for the remainder of federal fiscal year 25. In transportation, it keeps transportation funding at the levels authorized by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the current federal legislation. So that is good news for our ongoing federally funded transportation programs. For those of you that had congressionally directed spending, AKA community projects, AKA earmarks, that were going to be in this year's bill, they are no longer. There's no more earmarks in the federal fiscal year 25 bill. There are the 24 earmarks continue, the 25 ones will not continue. And so you will have to look ahead and we will notify you of this. And Barry is here. Where's Barry? From Senator Curtis's office. We'll notify all of you for when the next rounds come available for congressionally directed spending. Now, there is a lot of review happening right now. I said that the IIJA levels are contained in the continuing resolution. The formula programs will continue along. But there is a lot of review happening of the new competitive discretionary grant programs. The administration right now is taking a look, and I think it's fair to say a sort of pushed pause on several of those programs and those grants to assess those grant programs for consistency with the executive orders that have been issued from the White House. So that process is underway right now. Now, with all of that sort of as current situation, let me give you just a little bit of an overview. And you have on your tables this 2-page sheet. The first page is background about federal transportation issues. And then the second page is our shared Utah principles. And I'll just really quickly walk through the background and then turn to Miranda. This Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that I mentioned to you already, this is the way the federal government does transportation policy. They adopt 5 to 6 year authorization bills that set the policy and the funding for transportation. And the current bill, the IIJA, expires at the end of September of 2026. So what we are doing, and this is, as you all know, this is something we love to do in Utah, is we're working together, all of the transportation agencies, to speak with a unified voice so that we can help our delegation, help us, and that we can also be engaged in the process of working with Congress. And we are really well positioned with our members of Congress. Senator Curtis is on the Environment and Public Works Committee. That's the committee that shepherds the drafting of the Roth authorization bill, the most of it in the Senate. And in the House, we have Representative Moore, who is on the Ways and Means Committee, and that is a committee that does tax policy, and he's also in House leadership. And we have Representative Owens and Representative Kennedy, who are on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee in the House, and that's the committee that does the drafting on that side. And Representative Malloy is on the Appropriations Committee. So, and Senator Lee is on the, somebody's going to jump in and help, Energy Committee. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carlton. That was a test. You've passed. So our delegation is really engaged and well positioned on this. How should we think about reauthorization as we head forward? As we go, and this is happening now, how should we as Utahns think about what are our priorities for what we want and what we think the federal government should do? So here's a few considerations. First of all, Utah is one of the fastest growing states in the nation. We all know this, so our mobility, our economy, our quality of life depend on providing transportation choices to keep Utah moving. Transportation is important, one. Two, we in Utah are nationally recognized for the approach we take, data-driven, collaborative planning processes embodied in Utah's Unified Transportation Plan. This is the way we do things here. All of the transportation agencies collaborate together, and we engage with the private sector and community stakeholders and the public sector. And through that partnership with the Unified Plan, we identify, and I'm reading from the document right now, Utah identifies and advances national, state, and local transportation priorities. Our collaborative approach increases efficiency and effectiveness by building consensus, prioritizing the most impactful policies and investments, and streamlining project development. So the federal funds that are spent in Utah are used prudently to advance national, state, and local priorities. The federal funds, the third point, third of four, the federal funds are an essential component of transportation funding picture in Utah. We actually, many of you know this, the share of total transportation spending that is federal in Utah is actually lower than most other states. That's because our state and you all as local communities invest really significantly in transportation, which is really good because we're growing really fast. But the federal funding is still a critical component for maintenance and preservation of our highways, expansion of the transit system, and improvements to your local roadways. And we do that. We award funding to projects through WFRC. Finally, investing in infrastructure is a national priority and a core federal role. But here's the thing. We also all know that we have a $36 trillion debt. And I don't think we are in a position to argue that all the spending that is in the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act should just continue unabated. The funding ramped up significantly in the IIJA, and many new discretionary grant programs were added into it. And there has to be a focusing on what is the core role for federal investment in partnership with the state and with the locals. And so what we are focusing our energy on is ensuring the continuation of the core funding programs that allow UDOT to do their basic maintenance, that allow expansion of the transit system, that allow us to do the planning work that is so important as we're growing so fast, and to provide funding for important projects that you do at the local level. So this is why we're emphasizing formula funds, which provide stability and predictability as we go forward in planning, programming, and construction of projects. With that background, I would turn to Miranda. And Miranda, you can run through what the proposed, and this is, let me just say, this is not an action item. This is not essentially, it's not a formal development of principles. It is rather an inclusive engagement process among all of the transportation agencies to identify what we want to emphasize. Miranda.
Yeah, and I will add that we've done this before. We did this, I believe, 6 years ago with the last transportation reauthorization. And not only were the transportation partners included on this, but broader industry partners were also brought on and signed on to this. And so that's kind of one of our next steps is bringing these principles to our broader stakeholder outreach and have them sign on as well. So Andrew kind of touched on some of these a little bit already, but we'll go quickly through them. One is with a new reauthorization, it needs to be long-term and timely, meaning it should have stability and predictability in transportation funding. It should be adopted on time, not kicked down the road, and should be a multi-year authorization to give Utah's transportation partners the certainty that we need to continue to do the planning and construction that we do. In here, I note specifically that predictability in this funding is notably important for the upcoming 2034 Olympic and Paralympic Games and ensuring that we can continue to maintain and enhance our transportation system to accommodate those games. 2 is authorize robust investment levels. Like Andrew said, the IIJA had a large amount of funding, but also had a number of different programs. We're recommending to not only maintain the funding, but perhaps enhance it in specific projects or programs that are most helpful and that were most successful out of the IIJA. 3rd is to enhance formula funding and evaluate those discretionary grant programs. Like Andrew said, there were so many, it may not make sense for all of them to continue, but there were a number that were very helpful, not only to WFRC, but to our partners at UDOT and UTA. The Bridge Investment Program for us, the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program, and really looking at all of these different grant programs, but prioritizing formula funding. Number 4, ensuring that there's a sustainable funding mechanism for transportation. Here in Utah, we've taken the lead on the road usage charge program, which looks at different ways to pay for our roadway infrastructure. That's not the gas tax, which continues to be a declining tax, and the Highway Trust Fund is suffering from that. So this idea of other sustainable funding mechanisms should be explored. And then lastly, streamline processes. Ensure that federal review and approval processes should be streamlined to reduce time and eliminate unnecessary duplication and cost. I think we all in government can see where those processes can be enhanced and more efficient. And so that's one of our other principles in approaching the reauthorization. So that's our background, our principles. I will note that the transportation partners are continuing to identify specific policy priorities. So these are a little more general, but specific policy priorities related to the specific funding that we receive, our PL or planning funding, our surface transportation funding, our, Andrew, help me out here while I'm on the spot.
The Capital Investment Grant Program for transit capacity projects, the National Highway Performance Program, some of the core programs that we utilize year in, year out to keep Utah moving.
Thank you. So we'll be coming with specific recommendations around our programs as well. And our intention with this is to share this with our federal delegation members, plus some, right? But I think Andrew said this well. Really what this document is it's Utah's transportation partners coming together, taking the collaborative approach that we always take, specifically with the unified plan, and approaching that the same way with our reauthorization. So with that, like Andrew said, no action item here. This is definitely more for awareness, but we'll continue to move this forward with our other partners and the congressional delegation as Congress continues to do its work. So,
thank you. The two of you have done an excellent job of narrowing an immense amount of work into a concise summary. So much work has gone into helping to create this. So many people have been at play in this. Very quickly, Commissioner, I'm going to turn to Bob Stevenson real quick, and then I'll turn back to you. And Commissioner Stevenson serves on the NARC Transportation Committee. See if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, just on dealing with the National Association of Regional Councils, we're working very closely with NACO, also with the League of Cities and Towns and AMCO, as far as trying to get this all coordinated together totally, because, we can go to our delegation and we can spend, a few minutes convincing them to do this, but when you've got people all across the country that are doing the same thing, and our goals are pretty close to the same related, and that's why we've been working really close together on it, so.
Thank you.
And I was, I was going to point out that in the National Association of Counties, there's a transportation subcommittee, which Commissioner Stevenson and I are both on. And so we too get to follow what I've learned. Just a couple big things that might be helpful for this group to know is that across the country, counties provide a lot of the work on the infrastructure of roads, highways, bridges. It's some fascinating data. And they don't all have the same collaboration and great working relationship with their state Department of Transportation, et cetera, et cetera. They often want funding to go directly to the counties, but federal sources are not, they don't like to do it that way. Anyway, and then so just it is complex, and Utah stands out in a big way for doing it well and right, especially with our MPO and our transportation agencies. And then the last little thing that I found fascinating when I went to a UDOT meeting is that they talk a lot about bridges that are failing counties across the United States. And I had no idea that UDOT has its own bridge program, but I learned that. And I just think maybe the self-sufficiency that our state has, there's some real benefit in that. We do need to keep the formula, all the funds coming from the federal level too, but I'm grateful that we have such wise people here doing such good work.
Thank you. Miranda, thank you. Just a reminder, Utah is the only state with a statewide unified transportation plan, and it is far more unique. That sounds special. It's more special than we can say. It really is unique, and it's enviable by a lot of our colleagues. Thanks to everybody working hard on this. I know our congressional delegation appreciates when we can bring them a very unified plan for what the priorities are for the state of Utah. Makes their job easier and helps them accomplish more on our behalf. So thanks to everybody working on this. Okay, we're going to now turn to our public comment period. I believe we have a couple of folks here from the members of the public that would like to speak. So if there's anyone here from the public that is interested in addressing the council, you're invited to come on up to the microphone and please give us your name, tell us where you're from, and you're welcome to take 2 minutes to tell us whatever you'd like.
The one that says push. Yeah. Thank you. I'm Anthony. I live in Salt Lake City currently. I just wanted to come and just ask the council to add the citizen proposed Rio Grande plan to the council's long-term plans. I really can't think of another plan that would align with the council's goals more holistically than that plan, whether it's transit, walking, biking, housing, business growth, economic growth, or even just citizens' quality of life. It truly checks all the boxes, and it would be a foundation to all of the plans that I'm sure this council has for the future. So, I mean, the only thing that really holds us back, I mean, we really need a heart, as I'm sure all of you know, as part of the council. We really need a healthy heart at the center of the region, and that's how you circulate the benefits to the entire region. The only thing that seems to hold us back is the cost, but I know that our region has the willpower because we're willing to spend just as much on freeway widening plans that do only one of the many things that the Rio Grande plan would do. I also know that the costs are outweighed by the economic benefits, and the costs of not doing it also outweigh the costs of doing it. So we need to keep all that in mind when looking at this plan. And so that's really I just want to ask, I mean, it's going to require, I'm sure, individuals in this council to take initiative. I'm sure you guys know how to make it happen more than I would, but please take into account all these things. I mean, the costs of not doing it, for example, aren't going to go away. They're going to get more expensive. The grade separation problems we have downtown with Front Runner and Amtrak and freight is going to get worse with the new freight coming in. It's going to double in the next few years. It's going to get more conflicts with the traffic, with pedestrians, with biking, and we're going to have to solve that eventually. Like there's no getting around that because there's deaths that happen, there's accidents, there's hours wasted off of citizens' lives. So we're going to have to solve it. Might as well solve it now when it's cheaper and it's part of a holistic plan. Also, housing issues aren't going to go away. There's a lot of land downtown that would be opened up by this plan that would bring in tax revenue from businesses and bring housing for our citizens. Right now, it's just being basically wasted. There's also pedestrian infrastructure that's going to have to go around the current problems if we don't solve it now. And there's also future train links to other parts of the state, other parts of the country. There's talk of to Boise, there's talk of other parts to Moab. There's talk of even Connect Brightline coming up from Vegas eventually. These things aren't going to be able to happen, and we're not going to bring all these economic benefits to the region unless we make some big moves now, foundational moves, and the Rio Grande plan is that move. So please make it happen. Thank you.
Anthony, thank you. Thank you for being here. Is there anyone else here in person that would like to address the council? Okay. I'm not seeing anyone here in person. And nobody online either. Yeah, as soon as we finish the public comment, I'll turn to Councilmember Stringham. All right, seeing nobody else from the public, we will close the public comment section and we've got a comment by Councilmember Stringham online.
Thank you. Hey, I don't know if everybody knows this, but the Salt Lake County Council actually took a vote to actually endorse the looking at of the Rio Grande plan and as something that WFRC and the organization should actually take a look at. In doing so, we've been looking closely at what that looks like long term as well as short term, and some of the benefits and the positives that go with it. The excitement of what we're seeing in the new economic study that was just done and completed on that is worth this group taking a good close look at, and maybe even creating a small committee just to review it and take a look at it as a possibility of adding to our plan long term. I think it's definitely something this organization group definitely needs to take a good look at.
Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you for that information. Good. It looks like Anthony is aware of that. That's good. Good. Okay. All right. Thank you. We're going to move on to item 4. We've got our Transportation Coordinating Committee. Commissioner Jim Harvey here chairs that. We're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly the most exciting part of the meeting today, because we've got Ben Withrich. We've got 4 items we're going to discuss, and we're going to have him work on the first 2 right now. Ben, go
Wonderful.
ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. So today we get to talk about the Transportation Improvement Program. Can we flip that? There we go. That's right. Or the TIP, which we like to refer to. It's an acronym that hopefully is just as fluent off your tongue as a member of your family. It should be something pretty important. But the Transportation Improvement Program is a 6-year program of the highway transit and active transportation projects. These are the projects that actually have funding on them. It helps us implement the long-range plans, and it helps us meet the short-range needs. And with all of the dynamics in a project, whether it be a new project or a nature of the timing of the programming, we get to modify this document about every time we have an opportunity to meet together. There are 4 items that we'll talk about, and currently we're functioning under the 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program. There are 4 items, as the Commissioner indicated, and the first 2 there, item 4A and 4B, is a report on a board modification that Transcom took action on back in their meeting in February, and then present to you a new board modification for your review and approval. And I'm assuming, Commissioner, you'll introduce 4C and 4D as we go, okay? then I will prepare theirs. So in your meeting materials, you should have included in that a copy of the tables that identified those projects that were part of the board modification. Transcom reviewed this information, and a copy of that signed resolution is included in your meeting materials. And this is for your information item. Is that all right to proceed on? Thank you. So then the 4B is a board modification that's before you today. And fortunately or unfortunately, we only have one board modification for you today to review and approve. This particular project here is a project that's located in Salt Lake City. This is part of the Pioneer Trail between North Temple and 300 North on State Street. And this will enhance pedestrian safety along this facility. To familiarize you, here's a couple of shots looking down here along State Street between 300 North and up to the Capitol there, and then down to North Temple. It's a part of the improvements on this project will address some of those concerns. The enhancements actually what we'll bring is bulb outs for pedestrians at the intersections. And then if you're familiar with the right turn bay there that goes from State Street on to North Temple, it will remove that right turn pocket there and combine a through right lane in that far right lane. And so the enhancements for the pedestrian safety all along there, once this is completed, it'll enable those partnering to enhance it with signage as well as artistic designs, as well as improvements there at the roundabout that was recently constructed. The new project is estimated to cost $800,000. Those funds are coming from the Transportation Solution Program from the department. That's the only project that's before you at this time for a board modification.
Any questions for Mr. Worthrich? Then, Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the resolution to modify the 2025 through 2030 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, as requested.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? A single item tip modification seems,
Very efficient, and
I'll
that's
say,
how we
that's a
run
good
this
way to put it.
program
That's
over
good.
here.
All right,
May
take
I
it away,
continue?
please. Yes.
Thank you. Transcom reviewed this report on federal obligations and had a very useful discussion around it. The report is also valuable for the council to be aware of, and Ben will give an abbreviated report of that today. Go ahead, Ben.
Thank you. So as part of the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act, or the transportation bill that we're currently functioning, it requires, like its predecessor, a report that's generated of all those projects that have received obligation during the prior fiscal year. So during the fiscal year 2024, which initiated on October 1st of 2023 and concluded on September 30th of 2024. If we, to identify what obligation is, so it's the federal government's legal commitment to reimburse the state or other entities for the federal share of a project's eligible cost. Well, a couple of things we need to be aware of in this report is that the obligated funds that are reported does not necessarily identify the project that was completed. It could be anywhere in the process, and the amount of obligation funds reflected in the report are not equal to the final project cost. So if we were to look statewide at the amount of funds that were obligated, we're looking at a significant amount, just $1.3 billion plus. And you can see we've collapsed all of the different project types down into 9 basic silos to where we can kind of identify those projects rather than lead out with 120 something plus different project improvements. But that was 1.3 billion in federal share, and then there was about 77 plus million in local match. If we were to look at those projects within the Wasatch Front area, we have an amount of a little more than $521 million that was programmed. That was $552 million that was, those numbers got switched. 521 is the federal share. 552 is the amount that includes the match. We have a match of 31 plus million in the Wasatch Front area. We've identified those 9 columns. Now, if we look at the programs that the Wasatch Front has a responsibility to program, we've collapsed that down to 6 major categories. There were 51 plus million dollars that were programmed or obligated from the funds that this body has a responsibility to program. We've broken them up into the various program types. SDP, which is Surface Transportation Program, there was 19.6 million in the Salt Lake urban area. There was 13.6 million in the Ogden-Layton area. In the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality, or the CMAQ program, there was more than 4.9 million. In the TAP program, which is Transportation Alternative Programs, that's our Transportation Active Program, 4.2 plus million. And then in that Carbon Reduction Program, or CPR, or CRP, could have created CPR need, 1.9 million was obligated in the Wasatch Front area. So a significant amount of work, but there's also in the meeting materials, there's copies of those tables that you can see what projects, what the obligations were. And then on the transit side of things, we had a total amount of obligation of 242 million plus. 200 million of that was federal share, 41 plus million was the local match. 71 million was in capital improvements and 129 million was in operations, planning, and maintenance type of improvements. So you can see an excited, a terrific and a wonderful amount of work that's gone on in the past. A lot of funds were obligated, and we look forward to this next fiscal year to where a lot more work will be completed. Andrew, did you?
Commissioner Harvey, it's worth noting, Ben gives us this report every year, and it's normally just a routine report, but apropos of what we were just talking about transportation reauthorization, it's particularly noteworthy to have that review of the scale and distribution of federal transportation funding that's coming into Utah, well over $1 billion that's going into state roads, transit, and to local transportation projects. So we were saying before, it's a very important component of our overall transportation program, and we all, Ben, team, all of the agencies work really effectively together to move the funds around to make sure they're being utilized in the most efficient way. So Utah does a really nice job of putting those federal funds to use effectively.
And I might just comment too, for all of us, here's the nice thing, when we talk about these funds and we talk about transparency to the public, as all of us represent our respective constituents, we're down to the dollar on each one of these. We're talking about millions and billions of dollars, but we go right down to the single dollar, and we put it out so everybody can see that. And so I compliment you, Ben, for that. Do you have anything else on your presentation?
No, maybe a caveat to what Andrew said. So the federal fund's about 18% of our budget used on transportation. The remaining part comes from you, the local governments, and our state government.
There you go. Any questions for Ben on this?
I do have one question, Ben.
Go ahead, Carlton.
Back on the planning, there was a negative obligation. How do you have a negative obligation?
Perfect. Thank you for asking. So when you have an obligation and a de-obligation, de-obligations mean is when it's been obligated and the federal authority has been given to use those funds. When those funds, if they're not needed, they're put back into the project or back into the program, and so that's considered a negative. But if you go through the list, you might have 25 positive obligations and you might have 10 negative obligations, but the amount of negative exceed that of the positive, and so it'll show up as a negative amount.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions for Ben? Because this council has the responsibility to approve the amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program, we want to make you aware of 2 other adjustments that have been made to the process. Wayne Benyon, he's a great guy. Wayne will start this presentation, and then Ben, again, I told you it was exciting, will conclude it. Wayne, go ahead.
Thanks, Commissioner. We want to make you aware of two small adjustments that are being made to the TIP amendment process, which mostly consists of the board modifications you see at every meeting and that Transcom sees at every meeting. So I'll start by giving just a bit of background and then turn it to Ben to show you the changes in those tables that he brings every meeting. Some of you or most of you are probably aware each year the regional council has to certify that they comply with the federal regulations in terms of the regional planning process. Fewer of you will probably be aware that every 4 years we have more thorough review from FHWA and FTA, and they give us both commendations and recommendations for the regional planning process at that quadrennial review. One of those recommendations was to more specifically reflect the procedural requirements of the air quality conformity regulations in our TIP amendment process. And so we've worked with FHWA and UDOT and the other MPOs to make adjustments to the process to make sure that we're complying with that recommendation. We'll get there. So this flow chart, apologize for the small print, but it's also in your meeting materials. This flow chart shows the existing TIP amendment process by a few different categories. And then the proposed changes, you can see on both the existing and the proposed process that there's a conformity determination included, and the small adjustment that we're making to that is to have that be a written conformity determination rather than a verbal conformity determination. You may recall that air quality conformity is demonstrating that our plans and programs, transportation plans and programs are within the limits, the emission limits regionally for the state implementation plan for air quality. And then the second adjustment is to involve, it's highlighted over on your right here, to involve the interagency consultation team in giving them an opportunity to review the conformity level of each project that comes before you in these board modifications. The interagency consultation team is a group of professional staff from the Environmental Protection Agency, FHWA, FTA, UDOT, UTA, WFRC, and the other MPOs, and the State Division of Air Quality. And so the regulations call for their involvement in, and they've had some, and they currently and have had some less formal involvement, but this will be making their involvement more formalized so that they can give input on who should see or what kind of interaction we need with our federal partners on the conformity analysis. So,
Wayne, could you please walk us through the details of every step of this process? I'm just kidding, obviously. But if anybody does, if any of you are like, I actually want to dig in and know more about this, Wayne, Ben, and any of us would be more than happy to talk through it with you. But we'll spare you from the details beyond what Wayne has already covered now.
Terrific. So I can see it in your eyes. You're excited to dig into it. So we'll let Ben show you the changes to the tables. Thank you.
So, whoops. Here we go. So these tables, you're familiar, you see these tables every time we send out a packet, every time we have a modification to the transportation improvement program. So this is of past action. It was actually amendment number 3 that we took on the 2025-2030 tip. Now, here's what the new edition or the new project looks like. And what this table will include, and we'll go through some of the details of the changes, but it gets into the more details so that you know that we have evaluated this with the ICT group, as well as those that are necessary and receive the proper that we've got the thumbs up that we can move forward. We won't use any fancy terms right now. So the things on the level of conformity analysis that we are looking at is exempt from conformity determination, the funding adjustments only, and or if we need a letter from Federal Highways that the existing conformity determination is still valid. Now, in the past, the board modifications that we brought to you have met these requirements, but as Wayne indicated, we're doing a little more formal so that there's a little more involvement with all the bodies. So when we have, well, that was a little premature. When we're looking at a project, there's actually federal law that identifies what projects are exempt, and that's identified and they refer to it as Table 2. Kind of sounds top secret, don't it? But Table 2 identifies those projects that are exempt. And anything that's not on there that's a regionally significant project is going to require additional work. So when we have the tables, so here's our board modification that we took care of today, the one project. Here's the difference on the tables. So right here is where we indicate what level of conformity analysis was performed, the level of conformity. Then on the bottom, we have the description there. It's exempt from conformity determination, or if it was a 2, this project would just have a funding adjustment. Or if it was 3, would let you know that we needed a letter from Federal Highways that the existing conformity determination is still valid. And we would have that before we would bring it to you. Along with this table here, improvements here, this is a new project. So what we've done now in the descriptions is the original, what we didn't have an original, it's brand new. So we've got the proposed project improvements. So on that table in the future, we'll have what the existing and then we'll have what the modifications are to kind of help clarify. Then we also have the functional classification. For a lot of the funding, and depending on what we need to do, if it's non-applicable, meaning it's not on the functional classification system, meaning a collector or an arterial or freeway or highway, then we don't need that. That helps us a lot. But if it was like a principal arterial, regionally significant, you would see that that would include that. That's why potentially we had a 3 on here instead of a 1. So that would be, I didn't mean to end it that fast. That's all of the discussion. Are there any questions with the amended tip process? Adjusted tip process.
Looks like you're off the hook, Ben. Good job, Wayne. Good job, Ben. Madam Chair, that concludes our report.
Commissioner, thank you. Wayne, Ben, thank you so much. Okay, before we move to item 5, I want to welcome a few more who have joined us. We have Morgan County Commissioner Raylene Blocker here. Thank you for being with us. We welcome you. We have Mayor Canoop from Brighton, somewhere over there. I'm like, hey, we walked in. Mayor, thank you for being here. And Executive Director Carlos Braceras from UDOT has joined us. He's online. Carlos, thank you. And Jenny Reese with Senator Curtis's office has also joined us. So we welcome you and thanks to all of you for being here. All right, item 5, Regional Growth Committee. We're going to turn to Mayor Bob Dandoy, who chairs that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a really great meeting last week, and so we're going to share a couple of important things with you today. We have 2 items. The announcement of the 2025 project awards for the Transportation and Land Use Connection TLC program. And we have an exciting event taking place in our great city of Sandy, who's going to introduce their certification to the stationary plan. So where transportation has the Ben and the Wayne, we got the Meg and we got the Brian, okay? And they are superstars. So we'll turn the time we can to Meg as she introduces the TLC program. Meg?
Thank you, Mayor Dandoy. I'm proud to be the Ben
for CED. My name is Meg Pageon, CED Director. We have two items today, as Mayor Dandoy said. They both relate to planning technical assistance that we have, community planning that we do with your cities. It's really enriching for us to get to work with you. And the March meeting of Regional Growth Committee and Council are my favorite every year because we announce new transportation and land use connection awards. So every year we get these awesome new projects. I'm going to go through those and then I'll turn it to Byron to talk about station area planning. So TLC is our core planning technical assistance program here at WFRC. It has a really wide range of eligibility, supporting you with your planning and implementing our Wasatch Choice vision. The goals of the program are on the screen: maximize the value of investment in public infrastructure, enhance access to opportunities, increase travel options to optimize mobility, and create communities with opportunities to live, work, and play. These projects that are funded through this program have some kind of a transportation and land use element. So we're recognizing that those two things are very much related. There's also an economic development tie in there. So we're blending all of our planning for those things and coming up with really great products for your cities. This is a partnership. So WFRC administers this program along with UDOT, UTA, and Salt Lake County, and recently with some assistance from the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget. So I see all of our partners represented here. I want to say thank you because we couldn't do it without you, and the value added is beyond financial. We get our partners review these projects. They participate with us when we're planning with your cities, and bringing all those stakeholders to the table is really meaningful to the planning work. We've talked about Wasatch Choice Vision with you all quite a bit. This program seeks to implement that Wasatch Choice Vision. So I'm not going to talk too much about the vision. You see here, 2050, the transportation, the roads, transit, and active transportation overlaid with land use. Right here in our vision, we recognize that those two things are very much related to each other. I will put in a plug. We're updating the land use portion of the Wasatch Choice Vision now. So once we adopt a new vision, we essentially begin again to plan with you all and make sure that we have it right. Right now, we're focused on the land use. So you have an email in your inboxes. Most of you, probably all of you, have an email in your inboxes asking you to take a look at the draft land use layer. This has been, it's a product of the workshops that happened in the fall, and then some additional feedback from your staff, your city staff, city and county staff have taken a look at this. And now we're asking you all to sort of confirm that the vision represents your city's vision. And then that all is going to have an impact on how we model transportation. That's built into our forecasting and modeling process, and it has an impact on the regional transportation plan. So we're kind of front loading the land use piece. Take a look at that email. Middle of April, we would like to see your feedback, and then we'll look to celebrate an amendment to the land use vision at our next Regional Growth Committee and Council meeting. Please get in touch if you have any questions about this.
And Meg, a lot of the communities have already responded to that,
Yes, many
to that confirmation request. And, you know, some of you are maybe thinking, wait, I have an email in my inbox. Am I supposed to do something? As Meg said, we're also in touch with your planners in your community. And so if you're not sure about this, I would advise go to your lead planning staff and say, where are we on this, and make sure. Okay?
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Okay, TLC, our beloved TLC program can fund plans. That can be transportation planning, active transportation planning, can be general planning, and then it can fund design. Maybe it's a small area plan for your town center. Ordinances, we can fund updates to your city's ordinances, as well as just get strategic about implementation. We know there's a lot of work to do when it comes to creating the places you want in your city. There is a nifty map online. These new projects are already on there, and you can go take a look at what your city has done in the past, maybe get some inspiration of what you might like to do in the future, copy your neighbors, and ask questions. If there's something that you don't see on here, but that you might think it might be a fit, let us know, and we'll chat about it. Okay, 13 new projects this year. We spent just over 1.5 million in transportation and land use connection partnered funding. It's matched by just over 200,000 from the cities, making that money go a little further. 13 new projects. I'll go through the list of projects, highlight a few. I see many of you in the room. You can woohoo during this item, whatever you want. It's really exciting to our team. And so, you know I can expect a woohoo from, where is he? Mayor Burton. Where'd he go?
I already knew exactly who you meant, and he had to leave.
There's so many of you in here. I love it. Okay, the first category, small area plans and centers. We funded a few projects that focus on city and town centers, not on transit. You know, we've got the station area planning work happening. These city and town centers don't have a requirement to do that, but they're still doing great planning to great places. The Murray Oakwood Village Center Small Area Plan, the Riverdale Stringtown Master Plan, a fun name, and the South Ogden City Center Master Plan were all funded this year. Hey, thank you. Some citywide plans and ordinances, some really great ordinance work has been coming through the program. We love to see it, updating some of our maybe outdated zoning ordinances in the region. The Mill Creek ADA Transition Plan, this is kind of building on some work we've been doing with Mill Creek, working on a sidewalk and trails master plan right now, so this is a small add. Sandy's Land Use Development Code, also building on work we've been doing with Sandy. We'll hear about more of that here soon. South Salt Lake's City Zoning Ordinance Update. Hooper's Zoning Ordinance and Design Standards Project. Plain City has funded a general plan with land use code updates. That's a big one. Do a lot of work there. Uinta City, we are going to help Uinta City in-house with their general plan. So our team will go up to Uinta City, spend some time getting to know that community. We do that each year. We take on 1 or 2 in-house, and we love to work really directly with those cities. West Haven's land use analysis was funded as well. Okay, and then finally, some contextual transportation projects. Kearns 5400 South Corridor Study, connecting a couple of centers in Kearns. The South Davis Greenway Feasibility Study. This will be managed by North Salt Lake, but includes several communities along the Greenway in consideration. And then the Municipal Services District, the MSD, which serves towns in Salt Lake County, has received funding for a transportation master plan. So lots of good projects this year, some new and exciting things. Happy to answer questions about any of these or the program in general.
Meg, can I just add, we get more applications for assistance than we have resources to support, which makes us sad. But I do want to note, and Meg noted this before, we have an interactive map that displays all of the projects through TLC that have been supported over all of the years. And if you had a project that you wanted support for that wasn't able to be awarded this year, please apply again. We want to keep working on this as time goes on. And if you look on that interactive map, there actually, in many of your communities, there are a lot of projects that are underway right now in all of the counties in our region, including in Morgan, Tooele, and Box Elder County, as well as Salt Lake, Davis, Weber, so all over the region.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. This year's applications were actually 3-to-1 demand, which is, I think, since our inaugural year. I know since our inaugural year, that's the most competitive it's been. So keep applying. This was a competitive one, but we want to talk to you and help you make those applications winners if they didn't get funded. Okay, Mayor Dandoy.
Thanks, Meg. Madam Chair, we do have an action item on 5B. This is the stationary plan certification for Sandy City. As you know, the Regional Growth Committee made a recommendation to the council that they certify the Sandy City stationary plan. I will indicate to you, as you all know, Wasatch Regional Council has been given the responsibility to certify stationary plans, and we've got one more. In fact, we got a few more today we're going to present to the council for consideration. I'd like to turn the time over to Brian. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Byron Head. I'm a community planner here at the in the Community and Economic Development Group under Meg, and here to talk about stationary planning. As you all likely are aware, this is a state requirement from a few years ago that any city that has land within a half-mile radius of a fixed guideway transit station must create a stationary plan for that station. The main idea behind that being that these are good areas to absorb the growth that we're always hearing about here in Utah, but there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Communities still have the ultimate land use authority in these areas. We just want to take a look at them through these 4 objectives, being housing, environmental conditions, access to opportunities, and transportation connections. In addition to having the authority to certify these plans, we also provide technical assistance, which we partnered with Sandy to do. But before we get to Sandy, I do want to also give you an update on the overall process of certification as a whole. Out of our 127 station areas, we have 33 that have been certified to date. And we'll be considering 5 today from Sandy City. And actually, I can update this 49 number that's being prepared for adoption. We actually just 2 days ago finalized another award for a joint project with Midvale and Murray for Fashion Place West. So that'll bump that number up to 51, and then we'll have 38 left that have not yet started with support from WFRC is, I guess, how I'll say it. Yes, Sandy City, we have Mayor Zoltansky here, as well as several of her best and brightest staff members in the gallery. We want to thank them for being here and for all their work in partnership with us on this project. This station area plan was done in conjunction with the city's overall general plan kind of overhaul. That's the first one that the city has done, I believe, since the 80s. So it was a huge project that really jumped in with both feet and really knocked it out of the park. The plan addresses 5 of the city's 7 station areas, these 5 being the most likely to see development and growth in the foreseeable future. And by doing multiple stations at once, kind of in a corridor like this, it's easier for the city to kind of highlight the differences between each. So maybe one's more recreation-based, one's more housing-based, one's more jobs and economic development based. And so again, pointing to that one size does not fit all idea behind stationary planning. So I'll give a couple of highlights for each of these 5 station areas, and then I'll turn it over to the mayor for her remarks. So first, we'll start off going north to south on the blue line with historic Sandy. This is in a, as the name suggests, a historic residential neighborhood. So there's, limited development opportunity, but there's always work that can be done to increase connections. So this plan calls for a trail along the East Jordan Canal, a shared use path, as well as adopting or incorporating the previously adopted station area master plan for the soccer stadium just to the southwest that kind of creeps into this area. And then on the right, you can see the preferred alternative for the Sandy Expo Center, again, adopting a large portion of the Stadium Village master plan. And really, this is the station that serves both the soccer stadium and the Expo Center. So this station is all about connecting to those assets that are pre-existing in the community, as well as re-envisioning 94th South as a transit corridor connecting several other nodes that the city addressed in their general plan, east to west up to the mouth of Little Cottonwood Canyon. Next is Sandy Civic Center. This is the track station you'll get off at if you want to go to Sandy City Hall, which I've been doing a lot recently. It's also often called the first TOD in the state of Utah, so it already has a lot of existing and mature multifamily housing. And it's also right across the tracks from Dimple Dell, which is a great recreation facility. And so one of the great parts about this station area is that it calls for a new bike park directly next to Dimple Dell to kind of really capitalize on that recreation aspect, as well as a pedestrian bridge across State Street. So helping people cross that, what could be a significant barrier when they're walking or biking from the station. And then on the right, we have Crescent View, another station that's in a largely single-family, mature residential neighborhood, but there is the Crescent View Middle School, which is no longer functioning as a middle school. So if the school district were to surplus that property, what could we do there? This plan provides an option for that, largely residential surrounding a great new open space for the community. And then this plan also works to improve the permeability or the ability to cross back and forth across the barrier that the tracks actually form going east to west. So making more neighborhood connections both to the station and across the tracks themselves for the residents and visitors. And then finally, we have the South Jordan Front Runner Station. As the name implies, it's not actually in Sandy, it's in South Jordan. So the first order of business is to build a pedestrian bridge to allow people to access all the amenities on the Sandy side of I-15. This is also an area that has been recently purchased by the Smith Entertainment Group. And so the city is working with them to finalize, new plans for the mall site, what that will look like. There was an HTRZ adopted here, but the city is going back and amending that and expanding that area to create a bigger and better project there. So that's something that we love to see. And that concludes my remarks. I'll now turn it over to Mayor Zoltansky for yours.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you, mayors, for that introduction and great overview. There's so many unique assets and amenities along our transit corridor in Sandy, so we are so excited about improving connectivity and targeted development in that area. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about where we are at this moment in our planning in the city, and to thank everyone here at the WFRC, our partners, for all the support you've given to Sandy. Earlier today, I was at Jordan High School talking to a group of seniors on a beautiful spring day. You can imagine their attention span was pretty short. They were very attentive, but I know their minds are on graduation. And today, to submit this stationary plans for Sandy, it also kind of feels like a graduation. So I brought, Andrew said I could start reading it on page 1 on, so I'm gonna say, in the beginning there was light. So I brought a copy of our city's general plan. Now, this is volume 1 and then appendix A and B. So just to get this printed is $300. That is the smallest reference point or factoid about this plan, because this is a 2-year project and for us in Sandy. And our original general plan actually was established in 1979. And just a little pop quiz, does anybody know what the most popular song in 1979 was? You might not know that offhand, but I brought a little pin and a mayor sticker to anybody that could tell me the band. It was My Sharona by anyone? The Knack. Okay, all right. There you go. There you go. Oh, very good, very good. The Sony Walkman was also introduced in 1979, as was the McDonald's Happy Meal. So we've come a long way culturally, but Sandy's never really updated its general plan. We've done it in little parts, but this was a 2-year undertaking that would not have been possible without the support of the WFRC and our partners, and we are so grateful. So if you'll indulge me for a minute, I just want to thank some people who are critical to this project's completion. First, my team introduced earlier, James Sorensen, Community Development Director. Can you give us a wave, gentlemen? Brian McHuston, Deputy Community Development Director. Jake Warner, Long Range Planner. Also here today is Susan Wood, our PIO, our communications team, everyone in the city level. We had so much hands-on work over the 2 years, over almost 200 public meetings and surveys and opportunities for our public to engage. We had over 2,000 public comments that really helped shape this. If you know anything about my story, I came into advocacy on a issue in Dimpledale Park where a project was master planned by a few people, well-intentioned experts in the field, but very little true public engagement. So what propelled me to office was what I was committed to in this process. We were going to make sure anybody that wanted to weigh in on what our future growth, what our growth of the city looks like, they are going to have the opportunity, and no one will be able to say after this that I didn't know or I didn't have the chance to voice my opinion. So that's why we partnered with GSBS, Y2K Analytics, our whole communications team. For 2 years, we were dedicated to making sure that everybody in the city knew this was going on, and we had town halls and stakeholder meetings and workshops and groups. When you talk about updating the general plan, your general development plan, people's eyes kind of glaze over. But when you talk to residents about, hey, this affects your commute home, your school crosswalks, your neighborhood, your shopping centers, what do you want our strip malls to look like? Big box stores versus locally owned businesses. Where should we target investment? Where should we target housing for your kids to live in Sandy? Then people sit up and take notice. So speaking to our residents in the language that people relate to and understand about the places they care about, that's what really drew out the engagement in our city. And I'm so proud of my team, and I'm so proud of our community, because this is really a tribute to them. So graduation day, in a sense. Thank you also to Byron, to Andrew, to Meg, to everyone here on staff at WFRC, being able to tap into your experience and really guide our process. This was, new to us, so we've done it since 1979. So we really leaned on your expertise and your help. We had so much success because of your expertise. I'm so very grateful. So proud to submit our stationary plans, and so grateful to the true partnership and collaboration between community, local government, stakeholders, business owners, and just shows that if you care enough to show up, you can create something very, very special and enduring, so that will guide our neighborhoods and our businesses and our growth in the city in a very positive direction. So thank you all. And I'm going to leave this here, and Byron said he's going to act as a security guard, but I'll leave this here on the front table so your guests here at WFRC can review it. It's really chock full of beautiful pictures of Sandy. Every picture in here is authentic to Sandy. There's not one stock photo. We scrubbed it and made sure that everything reads like the story of our city. And so it really is, a beautiful planning document, and I brought a copy for you. Thanks.
Mayor, can I say, as your esteemed neighbors to the north, and Mid-Bell City is somewhat of an expert in station area plans at this point, we welcome you to the club, and we thank you on behalf of our residents who recreate, and yes, absolutely. So congrats.
Great, thank you. And we do have a suggested motion on the for you. In your packets, you should have all the documentation you need: the plan itself, the staff report, and the actual resolution that will hopefully be signed here today. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Mayor Dandoy.
Thank you, Brian. Madam Chair, the Regional Growth Committee therefore reviewed the stationary plan and recommendation last week and unanimously recommend presenting for the council's approval, the certification, or at least a motion and a second for the certification of the Sandy stationary plan. So with that, we'll take a motion.
Thank you. I am prepared to entertain a motion, as is recommended on the screen, to certify the Sandy Station Area Plan. Is there a motion?
I move to
Madam Chair, I
certify the Sandy Station Area Plan.
Could you make the second? I move to certify the Sandy Station Area Plan, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And we have Mayor Tran with a second. Okay.
Mary Tran.
Any additional discussion to this? It's evident that there's been immense amount of work on this, and 5 all at the same time, no small task. That is a lot of work. With that, I will ask for a vote. All in favor of certifying the Sandy Station Area Plan, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations to Sandy City. Well done on that. And Mayor Dandoy, thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes the Regional Growth Committees. I will indicate to you, as we talk to the legislative individuals, please recommend and remind them, this is 38 stationary plans now have been certified, and we're moving forward. We got a few more to do, but we're making things happen. So wanted to share that with you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. And there's so much work. If you don't have to do one, or if you have not yet done them, they are a great deal of work, but they're an important planning tool that really can turn out great, as you mentioned, but they are a lot of work. So thank you. Well done. All right. Moving on. And also thank you, team, to the staff. We had Byron and Meg. Thank you to both of you as well. All right, Sandy City, thanks for being here. Item 6, WFRC Budget Committee. We met recently. I'm going to turn to Councilmember Amy Winder-Newton for an update on that.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn a 15-minute presentation into 5 since we're short on time. So we have 2 items today. The first one is we need to release the draft of WFRC Goals, Budget, and Unified Planning Work Program for public comment. And so we've got that today. And then we also need to talk about the Budget Committee recommending that we approve the fiscal year 26 goals. And so we'll have Andrew summarize the goals, and then Marianne's going to give us a quick summary on the budget.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Winder-Newton. Following your direction, I'm going to be brief. I'm going to talk to you briefly about our goals for the year. And just for process, what we are doing here today is giving you the opportunity to see and hear the goals and the proposed budget and work program, and then you would release it for review and public comment, and then as noted, we'd come back in May. So this is not a final action. Because we're going to be brief, I will say that if any of you want to go into any more detail, We have sent all these materials out to you in your packets. We would be very happy to review any of this in detail with you. But in the interest of time, we're going to be succinct. The goals are what we do. The who, our mission is who we are. And you see it on the screen in front of you, building consensus and enhancing quality of life, et cetera. The mission and roles are who we are. What we do is the goals. And so we have three goals that we're proposing to you this year. There's a lot of consistency from one year to the next. It reflects the continuity in the work that our organization does. We had 4 goals last year. We've consolidated goals 1 and 2 from last year into this. Number 1 here, collaboratively advance the Wasatch Choice vision to accommodate growth and enhance quality of life. I will point out that the first word in our goals is collaboratively, working together for the future of our region. And that goal is broken into 3 categories, all under the Wasatch Choice vision: implementing regional plans for transportation, economic development, your local land use, providing funding and assistance. We've talked about that type of assistance that we provide to your communities, and then additional resources through planning and performance measurement, additional studies that we do in the region, the detailed work of forecasting and modeling that we do, and then, of course, community and stakeholder engagement. All of those are under the first goal of advancing the Wasatch Choice vision for growth and quality of life. The second goal that we have is to provide subject matter expertise to federal, state, and local officials and policymakers. For example, we talked about the federal transportation reauthorization legislation. That's an example. We talked about the state legislative work that we do with the House and Senate and the governor's office. We've talked a little bit about air quality issues, the ozone challenges that we face. Working on those issues are examples of that subject matter expertise that we provide to you and to the region and all of our stakeholders. And then the third goal is more of an internally focused one, striving for organizational excellence, maintaining communication and transparency with all of you and our stakeholders to have accountability. We think that's really important to be accountable, particularly given that we're utilizing public dollars. And that leads into our using our resources prudently and efficiently and maintaining budget stability. This is the commitment that we have. We also regularly review and utilize best practices and make sure we're in compliance with applicable laws and regulations. On this, I do want to note we are in a period of transition with regard to the guidance and regulations and laws that we have to comply with coming out of the federal government. We operate in full compliance with the applicable laws and guidance. The work that we have done in the past was done in that way, and as the guidance and rules and regulations change, we will update our practices and have done so already to make sure that we stay in compliance with applicable rules as we work to serve our community. And then finally, it's the last thing on the list, but it is perhaps first in our hearts, is to create and maintain a work environment that maximizes the health, happiness, and productivity of an excellent staff. And you've seen this, you see it all the time. Our team is terrific, and we want them to be happy and productive. Madam Budget Committee Chair, that's the quick walkthrough of the proposed goals for next year.
Thanks, Marion.
Sure, and I will just note that the budget follows these goals and follows the work that you've heard about all during this meeting. And so I can be brief to say the budget is presented in your packets in 3 parts. The first part goes through our expenditures by line item and then by program. And so the main story today is that we're budgeting conservatively as usual and that it's relatively flat. You can see the shaded column. We're comparing the shaded column, which is this time last year, to the far right column. And so you can see overall, we have an increase of 3%, which is relatively flat. And there's a lot of reasons for this, which I am not going to go into. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions. The main increase, of course, is in our salaries and employee benefits. That's the line where we make sure that we have room for any increases for next year and where we invest in our excellent staff. The rest of the budget, as you can see, is relatively flat. And then we can see by program, our consulting line goes up and down. It fluctuates because of ongoing programs being reflected in the beginning year and then sort of going through the budget. So in October, we will amend our budget to include those ongoing programs. But for new funding for new programs for next year, you can see an increase in that top line. That's our main Consolidated Transportation Planning Grant. That's where you'll see those salary increases, the investment in our staff. And at the bottom, you'll see programs that we have either completed work on, we're about to finish work on the Power District Transportation Study, and new projects we anticipate for next year. The activity-based travel model is at the bottom of this list as our newest addition. It's really exciting. We talked about it in Regional Growth Committee. I wish I had more time to tell you more, but that's a teaser. There is information there, and that's a project that we're launching in partnership with UDOT and MAG and UTA that starts next year. So our sources of funding, the other side of the coin, is our revenues. As you can see here, out of a $12 million budget, we have 2/3 of that comes from our federal sources. As we talked about, we rely on those formula funds. We have a discretionary grant here for Safe Streets for All that we are awaiting the grant agreement for that. But all of the top lines are formula funds, and they provide the funding for our planning efforts, for our TLC program, and also for that activity-based model starting next year. So that's why you see those modest increases there. Our state partners and our local sources are also really important to us. Lots of local, we've got $2 million on state and $2 million on local that are really important. And I think that it's illustrative here, just as we said earlier in our discussion, that our reliance on federal dollars is 2/3 of the budget. It's a majority, but it's not a critical majority. It is a majority. So that is very brief. I'm happy to entertain any questions at any time. Anything more to add to that, Andrew?
No, thank you.
Okay.
All right. So are there any questions or comments on these items before we go to a motion? If not, the motion we'd like is to release the draft fiscal year 26 WFRC goals, budget, and unified planning work program for public comment. And I'll note our budget committee did review all of this on March 17th, and we were happy to move this forward so that we can get it out to the public.
Councilmember Winder Newton and Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Thank
Second.
you. Who seconded it? Okay, we have a motion and a second to release the draft fiscal year 26 WFRC goals, budget, and unified planning work program for public comment. Any discussion to that? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, next item, Councilmember Winder Newton.
Okay, great. This is item 6B, and we do need to take action on this. This is updating some administrative and accounting policy and personnel policy. And of course, our team always wants to make sure that our policies are reflecting best practices and updates to state or federal fiscal guidance. And so these are two policies that they fall into two categories. The first one edits that will reflect updates to the uniform guidance for federal funds. And then the second one is best practice updates for clarifying internal control over banking deposits and increased reimbursements for educational assistance with IRS allowable amounts. So anyway, we did also add to a personnel policy to provide a whistleblower policy to clarify rights of employees who want to report something. So that's what these two things are. You should have a memo in your packet that shows these proposed changes, including the red line sections showing the modifications from the current policy. So if you need any other information or have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. And then if not, we do need a motion to adopt the amended WFRC administrative and accounting policy and personnel policy.
So moved.
Second, Jeff Salzstrani.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the amended WFRC administrative and accounting policy and personnel policy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that also passes. Go back to Councilmember Winder Newton. Did you have anything else for your budget?
Nope, that concludes the budget committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, item 7, we have some reports. Active Transportation Committee updates. Mayor Petro, turn to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I'll make this brief because again, like you said, we're limited on time here, but I just have 3 major updates. One is that you guys are all familiar with the Golden Spoke ride, which started 8 years ago and has been fun and exciting and continues to grow in population. But this is a ride that takes place from Ogden to Provo. And yeah, and I'm sure Jim's going to grab his bike and ride it. But anyway, I just want to invite everyone to make sure that you block out some time on that date. There's a lot of different events that will be taking place throughout each, kind of like each different areas along that corridor. And you can find the specifics on the goldenspoke.net. And I also just want to give a big shout out to all those who helped sponsor this or make this happen, which obviously it's the Wasatch Front Regional Council, MAG, Move Utah, UTA, the Jordan River Commission, and a lot of the local health departments, as well as many other partners. So we just want to say thanks. And like I said, put that on your calendar. As far as an update on the Beehive Bikeways, the Wasatch Front Regional staff continues to evaluate the recommendations that were received from the fall 2024 workshops that took place. And the Beehive Bikeways are a high quality in-town trail that are suitable for users with all abilities. And the purpose is obviously to make it more easier to get to places, in particular, a lot of your economic development areas. And again, this is being incorporated into the 2027 to 2055 regional transportation plan. So one last report, and this is on the Utah Trails Network. So the Utah Trails Division at UDOT has finished their statewide workshops and stakeholder reach out efforts. The feedback received from these efforts are being refined into a vision for the Utah Trail Network, which will include both new and existing trails across the state. So I'm going to say stay tuned for that. And for anybody who participated in those workshops, thank you very much. I had the opportunity to attend them, and I had a great turnout for my area. So I opted to join the Morgan County area, and it was a lively discussion, and it was fun because there's a lot of emotion there that tied into the, I'm going to say it, the Valley area. So up over the Pineview into that area. So anyway, great discussions and a lot of good information. And if you'd like a sticker for the Beehive Bikeway, they have them right here before you go out the door, so you can put them on your water cups or wherever. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Go ahead.
One more active transportation update I'd just like to give. That I'm happy to say that that Mill Creek is going out to bid probably in the next week or so for a protected bike path along Wasatch Boulevard that will run basically from the UTA Park and Ride Lot at 38 South all the way down to our city border with Holiday. And it's going to be a great improvement. That's a really popular bike path, and it'll be a great addition to our active transportation network.
I thought you were going to brag about riding your bike here. I'm doing
I
it for
could
you.
do that, but you know, Mayor Burton would outdo me. Where did he go?
He had to leave. It's all you.
Okay,
We
I can
need
say
you
whatever I
to
want
say
now.
it. Yeah.
Anyway, I did ride my bike today. It was such a glorious day, and I had a little extra time, so I'm glad I got to do that. And I'm going to get the route home from you, Andrew.
Hey, one other statement, since we're all acknowledging all of those from Wasatch Regional Council. I got to give a big shout out to Hugh. You know, Hugh is huge. So thank you, Hugh, for all your work.
Thank you. Thanks so much. All right, Commissioner Froer is going to give us an update on the Wasatch Front Economic Development District.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And since Councilperson Amy Winder Newton was so benevolent in cutting her 15-minute presentation into 5, I'm going to take my 5-minute presentation and turn it into 15. With everybody's permission. Okay, thank you for that. Just kidding for those that are staring at me. All right, so I want to give the brief update on the Wasatch Front Economic Development District. We had a meeting on March 13th. The first thing we did in that meeting, it may surprise you, is we reviewed the legislation that impacted our region and our state. areas of economic development, areas regarding land use, transportation, and housing. And it's interesting, land use, transportation, and housing kind of all fit into economic development, in case you haven't noticed. So we paid attention to the Wasatch Choice Vision, but we reviewed those bills. One bill in particular that I think is interesting that Miranda brought up earlier was House Bill 37, one by a former colleague of mine, Representative Dunnigan, which deals with regional planning. And I think that was one area that our district committee looked at very seriously in terms of regional economic planning. The other thing we did is we discussed opportunities for economic development. The market study was done by Salt Lake along the North Temple corridor here, future site planned for a Major League Baseball stadium, what those studies can present and the benefit to the local municipalities and counties because of that planning. And lastly, we did discuss the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, the SEDS, as you've probably been aware. And part of that study, or part of that program we put was a survey that was put together by Marcia White. We actually did something unique. We asked for members of our committee to give suggestions on what they would like to see, what the benefit of the development district is, and what future of the development district, basically future meetings should hold. With that, we came up with the developing economic opportunity best practices. They've asked us to come up with, okay, what practices for economic development have worked across the region and what have worked across the state. We'll be discussing that in future meetings. Advancing regional development, again, HB 37. Let's start looking at this from a regional standpoint rather than trying to have everybody invent their own scenario in terms of development. Communicating funding opportunities and providing assistance with grants. There was a good discussion on, okay, where's the opportunities for grants? How do we communicate? There's a lot of our stakeholders out there that may not be aware of what funding opportunities actually exist. So we'll be discussing that in more detail in the future. Issues brief and providing legislative assistance. A lot of our stakeholders said, okay, we'd like to hear from WFRC in terms of what they're talking to our legislators about, and then communicating back. And one thing that I've learned in the previous life was that legislators like to hear from a varied group. So the more that they can hear the same song from different people, it will pay off. And that's what we intend to do. And they did give kudos to Andrew and his group. Obviously, we have a great legislative staff here. We need to communicate that with our stakeholders, make sure they're aware, bring them into the scenario so they can help us achieve the goals we want to the legislator. And then obviously supporting innovative data and analytics. So that was what our survey said. That's what we're listening to our stakeholders. I appreciate the opportunity. I think I still have 12 and a half minutes left. I yield my time to Commissioner Harvey because he likes to hear. All right, just kidding. No, I'm not going to yield my time. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Farr. All right, next we have our Community Development Block Grant 2025 awarded projects. Christy Dahlberg is here to present those.
Thank you, Mayor. This is also something exciting that we get to announce every spring, probably the record-breaking fastest agenda item on council. We are announcing our 2025 CDBG awards. We have one from Marriott Slaterville that was awarded last year. We're finishing that project out for sewer and water installation. Two in Washington Terrace. They are removing a playground, purchasing a new one and getting that installed. They're also connecting one of their neighborhoods to a park with a sidewalk, which will improve connectivity and safety as well. And then last but not least, Grantsville, Apple Street water line replacement. And feel free to woo. It's not as splashy, but those are our projects for this year. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. I know those deserve a cheer. Those deserve a shout out, and that's important money for important projects. Thank you for that. All right, item 7D, we're going to turn to our esteemed executive director for his report.
Thank you very much, and I'm going to be brief. I think "feel free to woo" is going to be one of our sub taglines. I really like that, Christy. First of all, you may have noticed I have this baseball right here. Is signed ball, and it says Tracks South Jordan Downtown Station grand opening, March 26, 2025. And I want to give applause to South Jordan and to UTA. The South Jordan Downtown Station opened yesterday, April 8th. is opening day for the bees. And so it was a really great example of collaboration and lots of great stuff happening there. So this is my ball, though. I'm not giving it to you, okay? Unless you order me to. You're my boss.
Who signed it?
I'll show it to you. Lots of people did. Lots
Oh,
of
and
people did.
famous.
Everybody we know.
Yeah, several people around this table signed it. Yeah. And then the only other thing I want to do is I want to give one of my favorite things is I want to recognize just a few members of our awesome team. We have 3 people today who are celebrating their 5-year anniversaries with WFRC. Now, do you remember what was happening just exactly about 5 years ago? COVID. Okay, so Josh, Bill, well, Josh Reynolds, I'll say your whole name, Josh Reynolds, Bill Harris, Rosie Hernandez. Guys, wave your hands. So Josh, Bill, Rosie, basically all started, we said, welcome, now go home. And so it was a tricky situation, right? But they navigated through it and have just, fully engaged with all of the work that we do. Josh, he has a seniority by about 7 days in this group. Josh is a data scientist and isn't that a cool, don't you want to be a data scientist? He's a data scientist and he's the co-lead of our analytic group's land use modeling and forecasting efforts. He's a skilled programmer. He's used these skills to build and enhance important tools like our real estate market model, the Housing Inventory Explorer, and our Wasatch Front bike model. Bill Harris is the deputy director of our analytics group. Bill, wave your hand, is the deputy director of our analytics group. He excels at developing applications and tools for planners, partner organizations, and the public. He is a dual threat traffic engineer and urban planner. And so he understands the creation and upkeep and use of the sophisticated models and how they're actually applied in all of our and your work. He also has a responsibility for project management and technical coordination across agencies and sectors. And then Rosie Hernandez, Rosie at the end there, Rosie is our executive assistant and community outreach specialist. You know her as a steady presence in all of our meetings, helping us with public comment. She works with all of our staff, but particularly she's involved with our short-range planning team. She assists with all the field reviews where we go out and look at all of the projects that you're proposing to us to seek funding and support. She also works on our communications efforts with Janae, our communications manager, on our internal newsletter, our social media content, our external newsletters, and outreach. All 3 of them are terrific, reliable professionals. They're dedicated to the future of Utah and its community. So please join me in congratulating them and thanking them for their service. And I want to introduce you to one new employee, Samantha DeSealhorst. Where's Sam? Sam is right there. Sam was waving. Wave one more time, Sam. Sam is in our long-range planning group, and she is focused on transit planning. Lauren Victor, who works with us, has moved back home to Minneapolis and is transitioning out, and Sam is transitioning in. Sam comes to us from Cottonwood Heights. She brings a planning background and a municipal background, and so we are very excited. Sam, welcome from the council to WFRC. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks for being there yesterday. Thanks for everyone that was part of it. We're excited to have a new track stop on the Red Line open, the South Jordan Downtown Track Stop. And you can bring it directly to the ballpark and it will walk right out onto the plaza and take you to the park. It's going to be good. Okay, I'm going to turn very quickly. Mayor Jenny Wilson has something she wanted to mention before we wrap up.
Yeah, I just have one area of concern that I know is on your radar as well, and it's on the National Association of Counties, I'm sure the League of Cities, and that is the potential threat to our tax exempt status for bonding. And if you don't mind, I'd like to rely on you and your staff, Andrew, to help us with more active outreach to the congressional delegation, contacts in the Trump administration. This is of concern to the county, certainly I know to your cities, but the banking community is now communicating back as we look at a very compressed, tight series of things that have to happen to move on the downtown redevelopment. And I mentioned this to Senator Harper just a bit ago, since he had been so instrumental in helping us, along with legislative leadership and others, to get across the finish line on a financing model. And if you add the 33% additional cost to what is a very, aggressive plan, and it's a big number, we simply can't do the deal. So we are in a bit of a panic at Salt Lake County at this very moment in time to figure out how we can transfer through sale or lease of land over to Smith Entertainment. And that creates a series of events that allows them to get their initial financing that's been authorized last year and then again this year. And the threat of those particular bonds, while, clearly it impacts the future of our various major projects, it will actually kill what we have all fought for, those of us who are looking for a revitalized downtown, to keep the jazz, hockey downtown. The mayor is gone from Sandy now, so she might be like, woohoo, what's could happen? But we see the benefit and the need for all of our, various counties and cities in the region and in the state to have a vibrant downtown. So that particular issue is front burner for us right now. So anything you can do, I see congressional staff on, and thank you. We'll be reaching out directly. So if you would get the word directly to your members, we'll be reaching out as well. I was in touch with the governor's office this morning as well.
And Mayor Wilson, we're happy to support and engage on this really critical issue. I will notice Cameron Deal still here from the League of Cities and Towns. When they were out for their national conference just 2-ish weeks ago, they presented information on behalf of the cities to the delegation, and hearing it from the cities and the counties and all of the respective entities that rely on this tool, I think would be very valuable. Okay.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, unless anyone has anything else, our next meeting is Thursday, May 22nd. So we'll look forward to seeing everybody there. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you so much for being here and for all your good work.